وسلم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح لنا فتحا مبينا وارزقنا رزقا مباركا كريما. رب اشرح لنا صدورنا ويسر لنا أمورنا واحلل لنا عقدا من ألسنتنا يفقهوا قولنا. ربنا أكرمنا مدخل صدق وأخرجنا مخرج صدق واجعل لنا من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. It's good to see everyone. Inshallah, today we'll discuss Surah Ash-Shuraa. It's actually a very significant surah, just as the rest of the Quran. It really lays down some very significant principles for our lives that are sure that we receive special mercies and blessings from Allah Azza wa Jal and a way out of many of our troubles in life. So it's a surah entitled Mutual Consultation, Shura, the act of consulting with one another. And so how significant is that, and how relevant is it to faith? And how does it fit into the paradigm? Is it just an instruction, just as I say, speak the truth, or be polite, don't pick your nose in public, different things you say to people. You say be clean. These different instructions of life, how do they fit in with each other? Are they part of a bigger whole, bigger message? Absolutely. In Islam, everything fits into this bigger whole. And it's called unity, Tawheed. We're going to see how this is related to the theme of this very, very significant surah. The theme of this surah is, yes, about mutual consultation, but before that, it's about a very powerful principle that is enshrined, codified within the message of Allah. So Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks ultimately in this surah, takes us back to the origin. He never just tells you, gives you the instruction. And this is something we really need to learn. It doesn't just say consult. He's going to tell us why we need to consult. So it brings us back to the origin of everything, the story of everything. You see, I have to describe the whole, the paradigm, the system, so that you understand why Shura, consultation, because this is going to be a primary instruction in the surah, is significant. So he says this is wahi. So the surah is ultimately going to be talking to us about the wahi of Allah, the divine inspiration and revelation from Allah. And he invites us to think in the surah, where does it come from? It comes from the heavens. And he says this is the way of Allah. The ultimate gift of Allah for the human being is wahi. And many people ask, why does Allah God communicate this way? Right? Even when I find myself talking to people interested in the faith or who ask questions, I see these strange looks on the faces of some people when you describe the revelation. You say, you can read it on their faces. How God does it that way? Why doesn't He just put that inspiration in the heart and, gain more? Well, He does. He inspires hearts. This is the decision of Allah, right? This is the way of Allah to deliver revelation, to deliver wahi. It's the way of the heavens, and it's a choice of Allah. And Allah is the creator and maker of the heavens and the earth. He chose for Himself to deliver wahi, what's called wahi, inspiration. And lexically, the word wahi means secret and swift instruction. It has to be secret, not visible, and very swift. Instruction from the heavens. That's wahi. This surah will describe to us the various modes of wahi. How does Allah communicate to His creation? It's a decision of Allah. The mode of this guidance from the one in the heavens, Allah Azza wa Jalla, who created everything, is through wahi. So that's we need to be very clear on how Allah communicates. And it's a gift of Allah. And Allah will touch on this verse that explains the various modes of wahi. How does He communicate? Through what means, etc. But it's all wahi. So Allah says, think about where it comes from. It's a unified source. It's one source that has revealed all these messages that has guided the human being. It's one source of guidance, it's one source of mercy. He says this wahi is very powerful. It carries with it, delivers with it the rahmah of Allah. And it delivers with it the guidance of Allah from the heavens, one source. So it's going to be one guidance. And where else would you get the guidance? All the guidance of Allah. Throughout all the revelations, all the wahis that have been revealed to the prophets and onto humankind and the jinn, right? All of them invite us to believe in the one. It's one core message. There's no difference. It's absolute continuity between all the messages of Allah Azza wa Jalla. There's no difference between them, except in the Sharia, in the conduct of, or in the rules that Allah Azza wa Jalla has packaged within that specific message for that specific group of people. That's it. Just some of the rules are different. That's it. Otherwise, the core of the message is the same. It's one. When we speak of Tawheed, Allah says all the deen of Allah throughout time has been about what? Tawheed. What is Tawheed? It's a very significant concept. It's related to Shura, it turns out. Tawheed is oneness, doctrine of unity. That no matter how different things look in creation, they originate from what? The one. And it turns out they're very unique and they're very different. And we see differences in life, differences in color, differences in looks, differences in temperaments, differences of opinion. Allah says, no matter what diversity you see, it's part of the code of creation that Allah made things different. And He states this here, but ultimately it's about the one. The one. Everything is unified by the power of Allah Azza wa Jalla. He didn't just create things randomly. No, they're part of a bigger system. Bigger system. That's what Tawheed is. And Allah tells us in the surah that signs of Tawheed are evident throughout creation. Now He's going to say two things in the surah that we're going to witness. This is about spiritual intelligence and intellectual intelligence. Wallahi, this surah. I put you in this earth, you're going to witness diversity. Differences all over. We've given examples of these differences. He says if you look further, and if you really look beneath the surface of things, you're going to observe linkages. Everything is connected. Look at the organs and the limbs. No matter how different they look, they're part of a what? One whole. And they work cooperatively, but they're interlinked. The cells work with each other. They're finding more and more evidence, and inshallah we'll reflect on some of it, as we comment further on the surah, that atoms and electrons talk to each other. The sun and the moon are interlinked in ways we cannot even imagine. Human beings are interlinked, actually. Even physiologically, psychologically, and emotionally, we cannot exist apart from each other. We're meant to be different. We're meant to be unique and differentiated, but yet we're interlinked. Tawheed. And Allah says the evidence of it is all over you, that everything works cohesively. So this wahi of Allah is delivered to guide us to the realization that the source is one and the destination is one, and it's Allah as such. But He said He put in us tendencies within human beings to clearly, in the conduct of life, as we live life, we're going to differ. We're going to have different opinions, and it's part of the free will. Allah tests us with free will. Through the exercise of this free will, we're going to differ with each other. We're going to have differences of opinion, etc., etc., etc. Allah says now, there are human beings, actually not human beings, I put within the human being the capacity to choose. And this human being also, just as he has a tendency towards faith, towards humility, towards goodness, he also has a tendency towards evil and towards splitting and splintering from the whole. So what have people done when Allah revealed His messages? Automatically they rejected the message. Most people, at least, rejected this invitation to the unity. And they said, no, I want to be different. I want to split. Remember Surah Al-Safat? Allah spoke of Safat, Safat. He says, if you look at the order of the heavens, it's very organized. It's very coherent. And it's all like, you see different angels, but they're all like operating what? In unison. in harmony, and they're lined up in ranks. He says, I gave you free will here, and you're going to have this test, the tendency to want to split and splinter, and Allah describes al-kuffar, those who are ungrateful to Allah. And because they're driven by ego and motives of selfishness, because they're not connected to the One. This surah is about really connecting to the One. There are those who reject this message and they don't want to connect to the One and be grateful to Him, so they're full of ego. They want to split. Allah calls that state shiqaq. What is shiqaq? To split. Constantly want to split. You know that stray electron that doesn't want to stay in its orbit. Imagine if the planets didn't stay in their orbits. The celestial order will collapse. So whenever we have splitting because of bad motives, what happens is a collapse in the system. The system itself starts to crack. So part of this justice of the system of unity, that everything plays its part. Everything has to work cohesively and consistently with each other, out of a desire to help each other, as part of that whole system, the unified system. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, now in this life, I'm going to give you, as part of this wahi, the principles, the guidance that you need to remain what? One. Because whenever we have oneness, right, unity, we see the results. The outcomes are amazing. You have good outcomes. You have growth. You have multiplied strength in unity, isn't it true? It's much better if me and Shabez are working together on a project. But it's also worse if we're going to work on the project and what? Clash with each other. Isn't it true? It actually becomes a deterrent because you start wasting your time, your energy, right? Etc., etc. As we've seen what differences produce. Allah says differences are natural. But what is not natural is what? Splitting and division. And that destroys the systems. That destroys the system. So Allah enshrines within the surah a very significant principle for those who are affected by revelation. He says, if you really respect the source, and you're conscious of Allah, and you really want to connect to the One, then you understand how creation works. It's diverse, it's different, but it needs to work with each other. And I'm going to give you a tool called Shura. Shura, mutual consultation, as a divinely mandated instrument from the heavens, that when you start differing with each other in your opinions, what do? You conduct Shura, right? To achieve what? Unity. SubhanAllah, it's real significant. And Allah says any other way will invite wrath, will invite essentially disorder and disharmony and disunity. Any other way will split the hearts. So differences are normal. It's okay. It's not only okay, it's part of the code and it's part of the system. We cannot be one. Like, we cannot be like each other. It's impossible. Allah designed us to be different. Even two fingers don't look the same, let alone human beings. We want to make everyone the same. Impossible. That actually goes or defies the order of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah says in the surah, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. If He chose, He would have made you a one nation, right? A one way. It isn't. We differ in color and temperaments, as I said, in levels of intellect and understanding, articulation, height, width, right? Etc., etc. And Allah says, your challenge right now is through this process of consultation and purification of desire. Come together and show me your best. And indeed, the outcomes, when we do perform or subscribe to these powerful tools of Allah Azza wa Jalla, then we're going to achieve incredible results. And I'm going to share here an example of marriage. Husband and wife are different. Clearly, even their genders are different. Isn't it true? They're very unique. They're very differentiated. Their temperaments are different, etc., etc., etc. Now they come together. Now, if they really love each other and they have mercy with each other, despite the differences, and they put their differences aside and they say, no, the interest of the marriage and the family transcends and trumps my own my selfish interests for my needs only. So it's not just my needs, it's our needs and the needs of the family that are bigger than my individual. My needs are important, they have to be acknowledged, right? Recognized, but it's not just about me, it's about the family, and it's about the marriage, etc., etc. When we have that desire and we cooperate within the marriage, what happens? Is the joy and the goodness that comes out similar to the goodness you can attain on your own? Impossible. The marriage and the family will produce something far better. Bliss, success in life, joy, etc. So you're going to see that the outcome of that cooperation is greater than any good you can attain on your own in life. So Allah's saying, no, through linking with others, you're going to achieve greater growth. And what Allah says is when you do shura, because you're going to differ for sure, you're going to clash. That's part of being human. If you humble yourself and you have sincere desire in your heart, and you do shura, mutual consultation, Allah assures us of His barakah. He says, I'm going to actually deliver to you special mercies. Special barakah from me. My angel will come to you. But you're also going to soften each other's hearts. And through that, you're going to arrive at sound judgment. And the outcomes will be far greater than what you can achieve on your own. The opposite is rebellion. So Allah's going to comment in the surah on people who deliberately choose to split, to divide, to quarrel, out of nothing but selfish motives. And Allah shows us the consequences of this in the surah. That's why this is a very significant surah. Let's get into it, inshallah. I'll touch on some of the passages and the verses that serve as anchors in the surah, inshallah. And we ask Allah that He makes us really among those who absorb the beauty of the surah, because it's very significant and instrumental for life at all levels. Allah begins the surah by Bismillah ar-Rahim, Hamim, Ayn, Sin, Qaf. So Allah says Hamim, Ayn, Sin, Qaf, 5 letters, part of what? Wahy. Because we ask the question, why? Why these letters? No matter what the interpretations are, they're part of the wahy of Allah. Allah chose it. One day we'll find out the full meaning of all of this. It's coming from them, it's the way of wahy, the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And He says, Kadalika, what do you imagine the first verb of the surah be? Yuhi. I delivered this revelation, this wahy, this inspiration, ilayka, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ila alladhina min qablik, and to those before you. Wahy has always been there. It's the way of what? Allah. Nothing is going to choose it, and it's the gift to be appreciated. Can you imagine living life that Allah created us, put us on earth, and left us? No way. How else would He communicate with us? Well, Allah was not going to show us. So Allah says, and I could have also left you alone. He didn't. So wahy is actually demonstrates what? Allah's rahmah, Allah's affection. He never creates and leaves and abandons. Any caretaker should do this. Whatever we're responsible for, we take care of it. But Allah is beyond, His mercy and His affection and His love for His creation, and exceeds a mother's love for her baby, right? So Allah says, I created you, and out of my mercy, this way you should be like in love with it. It's the way of Allah, and it's there to touch you and guide you and enlighten you. And it wasn't just wahy given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's the wahy given to Musa and Isa and Ibrahim, all the way back to Adam alayhi salam. It's always been wahy. Always been one message throughout all the wahy, that you follow Allah. This is beautiful. Look at the unity that it invites. You're not there by yourself. You're not to split. Worship Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah says, لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. This source of wahy, He says in the next verse, the source of this wahy is the one who owns the heaven and earth. What He's telling us is, remember where you came from. Remember your source. Whenever we're cognizant and mindful of our source, we reconnect to the one, right? But whenever we forget Allah, it's called ego. Ego says you're on your own. Ego says you're better. It's shaitan. What was the shaitan's problem? He split. He was part of an order, unified heavenly order. He decided, nope, I am better than him, than Adam. When he declared this out of a corrupt intention, He split. He defied. He broke away, and Allah ejected him. Expelled him completely. Everything that has come out of that egotistical tendency has been hellish. And we've seen the evidence of it on this earth. All the corruption you see on this earth, all the crimes emanate from that. The desire to split from the wahy of Allah and the reconnection to the source who owns everything. Allah says, I own you. Your hearts and your souls and your fingers and your cells all belong to Allah. How can you split from that? Right? How can you split from that source? And what do you expect to attain when you split from Allah Azza wa Jal? Nothing but trouble for the human being. Because at the end, you and I are still sustained by Allah, despite what the ego tells us. No, you're not on your own. We're already connected to Allah. It's a matter of being cognizant of it. If Allah is not there, none of us can take a breath. We collapse instantly. His life is what sustains us. His provision is what provides for us and keeps us going in life. We're contingent on Allah. Then how are we deciding in our heads to split if we're physically connected? Does it make sense? Then Allah Azza wa Jalla said, Takadu, He said, do you want to understand what your mission should be? What your purpose should be? What you should be doing with the one? He gives us an example again from the heavens, just as He gave us an example of Surah As-Saffat, where we needed to line up in ranks and understand the power of ranks. Lining up in lines, orderly lines, shoulder to shoulder for each other, right? He spoke of the angels in the heavens in Surah As-Saffat. He says, look, take lesson from them. Same thing here. He says in verse 5, تكاد السماوات يتفطرن من فوقهن والملائكة يسبحون بحمد ربهم ويستغفرون لمن في الأرض ألا إن الله هو الغفور الرحيم. He says, the heavens above you, the source of this wahy, are about to crack. Crack from what? From the weight of the angels in them who are doing what? Here's what the angels are doing. We really understand this message of Tawheed, connecting to the one, that they're created by Him and are owned by Him. They do this. يُسَبِّحُونَ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. They naturally, instinctively do tasbih of Allah. Declare, wow, we're in awe of you. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. يُسَبِّحُونَ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. Tasbih is declaration, the acknowledgement and the declaration of the perfection of Allah. You say Subhanallah, you're saying, Ya Allah, you're so perfect. You're free of all flaws. The angels are aware of it. And they declare it freely, lovingly, right? And with eagerness. They're not just compelled to say it. No, they love to say it. Because they understand this is reality. The only thing that is real is Allah. And it's so perfect and it's so absolute. So they're doing this and they're doing hamd of Allah. Alhamdulillah, Ya Allah, we adore you, you're perfect, and we're in love with you. We're so grateful for you. This is the state of someone who understands Allah. So Allah's telling us, take a lesson from them. Look at what they're doing. They understand this truth, this reality. And their hearts and souls guide them to it. Guide them, inspire them to believe in that and to witness to it. And it becomes an utterance on their mouths. But they're all doing it. And the Prophet ﷺ said there is not a spot on the heaven, in the lowest heaven, the size of a hand, except that there is a head of an angel right there, prostrating, doing glorifications for Allah. Can you imagine the enormity of the scene? That the heavens, he says, ﷺ, are about to crack from their weight. They're all putting their hands on the ground. This is it. We're made for this. He says, they're doing this. What are you doing? We're decided to split, divide, quarrel, dispute, etc., ego, right? Me. We're forgetting the one. When we're saying me, he's saying they're doing this, but you know what else they're doing? It's a reiteration of a message we've seen earlier in the Quran. They're also doing out of love for you. I made them love you, that they're making istighfar for who? The human being. What is istighfar? They're making dua in addition to their glorification. They're saying, Allah, forgive them on earth. Forgive the human being that you made, Allah. Forgive the human being, Allah. Forgive the human being. If you're not making istighfar for yourself, and if you think nobody's making dua for you, I want to say, realize Allah's angels are making dua for you. And what a beautiful message of affection. Allah's telling you, I care for you so much. I made all my angels glorify me, and imagine the next function they do is to make dua for the believers and human beings. Ya Allah, forgive them. Ya Allah, forgive them. Ya Allah, forgive them. لمن في الأرض, for people on earth. What made them love this creation? Allah. Because Allah wants us to connect to Him. And we're the ones who benefit when we glorify Allah and connect to Him. It's not Allah. Make sense? So it's beautiful to remember the functions of the angels in the heavens and what's happening right now. As we sit in this center, reflecting on the word of Allah and His wahi, right now, these angels are doing this. This is not a past tense. Right now, the heavens are about to crack from the weight of the angels that are sitting to do what you've done after Salah. Subhanallah, 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 Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. But they're doing it continuously. And as you make your little dua for yourself and your family, you have angels making dua for you around the clock. What a message. What a beautiful thing. Right? Then Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us, but, وَالَّذِينَ, now there are these splitters now. The ones, the disputatious ones, or acting on their desires and refuse this wahi, like the devil. وَالَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. He said, but there are those who rebel against this haqq, this truth, this beautiful truth that benefits them, that takes care of their well-being, to split from their source like a child splitting from his parents. Saying, I don't need you. I'm on my own. And you have a whole system compelling the child to leave his parents. They even sue them if they have to. Right? This is a scary picture. Splitting from the source. Allah says there are those who are seeking to take awliya. Awliya is patrons, caring friends. Because we know we need people. We know, it's funny. A human being, despite his ego, cannot exist by himself. And he knows he needs to get married. You know, he wants children, but wants to just push against the children, but he wants the children. He wants people around him. And it's funny. Some, look at the dictators. They want to oppress others, but they still want them around them to glorify them. So you need them. You still cannot get a drink of water on your own. You need someone to serve you. This is a funny behavior of a human being. So they're seeking what Allah calls awliya. Awliya is protecting friends. You're still seeking them, but you're seeking them other than Allah. You're seeking ones that are not Allah. And who's a better wali than who? Allah. Wali, Allahu waliyu, alladhina amanu. Allah is the protecting friend. Can you imagine? He's telling you, I take care of you. I am your friend. I am your patron. Who's better than that? The one who owns the heavens and the earth and sustains everything is promising you, I'll be your wali. And I'll assign who as your walis? نحن أولياءكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. This previous even the surahs are connected. The verses are one. Wallahi. It's mesmerizing. Quran is a reflection of creation. Diverse verses, diverse letters, they're all part of a cohesive whole. The previous surah was telling us about a category of creation that are saying, Nahnu, we are awliya'ukum. We are your protecting friends around the clock. In this world and in the hereafter, what are they? Who are they? Angels. SubhanAllah. So when Allah describes them as doing glorifications and dua for you, it's because they're your awliya. You know when you say in life, by the way, in Arabic we have this reference like his wali. In marriage, the bride says, I have my wali. What is a wali? The guardian, the one who represents me, takes care of me, takes care of my needs. That's why she needs the wali, to ensure that husband doesn't mess with her. That's what the wali is there for. I'm strong, I got him back. Right? Allah's telling you, I got you back. I am your wali. Can you imagine going to Allah saying, my wali is Allah? Because everybody's searching for a wali. We can't make it on our own, we're weak. And we're so happy we have somebody of authority who's our wali. You know what I know? I have my card. I remember one time a police officer says, keep my card in your wallet. If somebody stops you, just show them the card. I'm not asking for the card, by the way. It's for me only. Just kidding. I don't use it. But it's just like, oh, I got my way. So don't mess with me, right? I know someone who knows someone. Allah saying, what about saying, I know someone and it's Allah, and he's my wali. And by the way, they're invisible to you. Your awliya are the angels. Every single woman, they're around, you just don't see them. The believer feels them. So it's also surah that is asking us, how are you splitting from that? How are you dividing? How are you forgetting your source and who your wali is? وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. Once again, reference to the verb or to the action of wahi. He says, and as such, we've delivered wahi to you and to the Prophet ﷺ. His wahi was different, even though the mode is the same. The angel Jibreel, who came to Musa, who came to Isa, who came to Dawood and Sulaiman, etc. Same messenger, same angel that delivers this wahi. But in this case, the revelation, the wahi, the content of it is in what language? Arabic language, appropriate for the people that it was delivered to. So that they don't have an excuse. Because remember, Surah Fussilat, again, unity. What does Fussilat mean? Make clear. This wahi is very clear. It's not ambiguous. It's not veiled. The language is so crystal clear. Surah Fussilat came to just tell us that what this wahi is so clear. If it's so clear, if it's so perceptible to your mind, if it appeals to your heart, if it makes sense, it's logical, then why are we rejecting it? That was the message of the previous surah, Fussilat. And here it is again, a confirmation. It's in Arabic, by the way, all you Arabs. Why are you rebelling against it? Do you find it not clear? Right? Is it so cryptic to you? It was very clear to them. That's why they refused. Because of selfish desires and arrogance. They're actually envious of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They said, you see, if this revelation, okay, yeah, we like it. Only if it came down to one of the chiefs. It's all about what? Them. Oh, this man? He? Yeah, I'm not going to follow him. What does that show you? Ego. Oh, better than you. Shaitan. If it came to me or one of my buddies, I would have followed. And by the way, that's a lie. Probably they're asking that it came to them individually, right? But it's all arrogance. It's all a desire to split. Blessing, you see, it's a tendency. And he's saying, I gave it to you as Quran Arabi to warn the people and invite them to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And he says, فَرِيقٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَفَرِيقٌ فِي السَّعِيرِ. He said, they'll meet the consequences. Every single thing that a human being does that is corrupt emanates from his evil. We bring it onto ourselves. Wallahi, most problems in life, if you really check them, they're because of the corrupt intentions. Most problems in life. Oh, people are humble to just sit down and say, what is my intention here? Wallahi, they'll find the answer. Allah will guide with His grace, with His mercy. That's why human beings quarrel. And Allah says, but it's okay. At the end, فَرِيقٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَفَرِيقٌ فِي السَّعِيرِ. Don't worry. Don't worry. He said to the Prophet, don't worry. I am the guardian of the world. I'm responsible. You're not responsible. At the end, a group in Jannah and a group in Hellfire. I love the settlement of this. We're going to have to meet the consequences of all of this. No matter what we do on this earth. He says, don't worry. And in this surah, he says, كَانَ يَرِيدُ حَرْثَ الدُّنْيَا نَزِلْ لَهُ فِي حَرْثِهِ. Yani, whoever wants the harvest, it comes down to two intentions. He calls it harb. He says, either your heart desires the harvest of this world, or your heart desires the harvest of what? The next world. That's the difference in intentions. Even if you conceal it, you're like, I love Allah, etc., etc., etc. I pray I'm good, but I want to trample on everyone. I'm full of ego. I want to gain as much as I can, steal, rob, be ahead of everybody, protest when I'm not being recognized, etc., etc., etc. It's all seeking the harvest of this world. And that's why people trample on each other. Or you're seeking the harvest. You're interested in the growth of the hereafter. Allah says, if you desire this, I'm going to multiply you. I'll give you that. And it comes down to this intention. Then Allah now starts to enshrine or a couple of beautiful principles. In verse 8, He says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَهُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. He says, are you quarreling with the design of Allah? He says, pay attention, pause and reflect. You're meant to be different. Again, we alluded to this concept. Because, again, we need to settle with this. We need to level with that concept. We want all of our children to be the same. We want the whole ummah to be the same, to think like each other, to act like each other, to feel like each other. You can't. Temperaments are different. Feelings are different. Orientations are different. Cultures are different. You cannot force Eastern culture onto Western culture. You need to purify the culture, though. There's a big difference. We need to purify the culture that it doesn't contain within it corrupt elements. Nakedness is not culture. That's bad culture, right? Modesty is good culture. But how you dress and how it looks and the colors on the dress, the African dress is as beautiful as the Eastern and the Western in terms of color and ornaments. Don't start forcing the Arab dress onto that African community. It's different. Its art form is different. We want to make everybody the same. We want our children to be the same. They're different. Allah says, even look at the heights and the widths. They're different. Your eyes are different. Your colors are different. That's part of the design. And Allah now delivered revelation whose core message is the same. Worship Allah. Isn't it true? Despite the language differences between Musa and Isa and Prophet Muhammad and the Sharia, and the Shariahs were different. The code of the Torah is not the code of the Quran, by the way. There's some unifying principles and message between them, which is what? Worship Allah. One message, continuity. But the specific rules given to the nation as to how they wudu and salah are different. Make sense? How they do their charity, their zakah is different. Different. Laws of divorce are different. Etc., etc. Allah says, those differences don't mess with the core. And if He chose, He would have made all of you one way, one nation, one community, one color. But He didn't. So it's not random. It's part of the design of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So He tells us now, so since you're different, difference is okay. Differences are okay. It's natural. It has to happen. He says now, you're going to differ with each other. So what should we do when we differ with each other? In opinion. وَمَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ مَا اخْتَلَفْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَحُكْمُهُ. When you differ, check your intention. We are not sure whether we should raise this ceiling or keep it lower. Right? Whatever decisions we have in life. He says, should I put my hand here or here? Right? Salah. Or on the side. He says, bring it back to Allah. Ask the question. Is it about Allah? Does it please Allah? Is it a tangential matter or is it a core matter? That's how we do it. If we have good intentions and we desire the harvest of the hereafter, we're going to say, does this please Allah? When we have conflict in marriage, right? Anything, financial, this, that. Is it a matter of taking more because of selfishness? Or are you going to bring it back to saying, does it please Allah? Wallahi, brothers and sisters, you see this. When people start experiencing conflicts, you say, oh, please, just relax. Let's see what pleases Allah. What will Prophet Muhammad do? I swear to you, recently, in a conflict, a witness, I asked some people to just do this. Allah, you should have seen the rebellion against even this concept. Rebellion. No. Right? Or they'll look at the rules of Allah and start to twist them to meet what? Their desires. To literally use the religious knowledge to trample. Because of what? Seeking what harvest? The harvest of this world. And what's the outcome? I mean, total division, battles, sectarianism. Where does sectarianism arise from? The desire to say, no, I'm better than you. My way, my fiqh is better than you. Schools of fiqh now are natural. Schools of fiqh is part of the design. Again, where you put your hand, right? And whether, my goodness, people are going to kill each other over wiping over their socks or no socks. I remember in one time, I'll never forget this. Some Muslims rejected following an Imam because they say he wipes on his socks. It's not a valid salah. And I said, you're going to split from the group because of that? Difference of fiqh opinion? See, they didn't understand the priorities. The divine message is about priorities. There's priorities, and there are tangential matters. Allah says, do not compromise the priorities over details. What is more sacred is unity. I will never forget those brothers that left the group. You know what happened to them actually, religiously and spiritually? They fell off the track. Because once they decided to go against the rule of Allah, stay together. Don't put the details above. Allah will take it. Allah will accept your son. Don't worry. Don't worry about the Imam. Worry about yourself. Right? And they're so busy thinking, my goodness, he walked on his sock. Oh, I saw him in the bathroom. It's not acceptable. Look, why are you going to that level? You shouldn't worry about it. Stay with the group. How often does it happen with sectarianism that people start splitting because my fiqh is better than your fiqh? My way is better than your way. And Allah's going to talk about this behavior. He says, "Nuduhu ila Allah." Bring it back to Allah. And you'll find harmony and a way out. When couples differ, if they do this, you're going to find a way out. If father, parent, child, if they do this, they'll find a way out. But it only happens for those whose harvest, who are interested in the harvest of Allah. Not the ones driven by ego and desire. And Allah Azza wa Jal continues on now, bringing us back in the next section to Him, telling us who the source is, فَاطِرُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The one who legislated this is the one who initiated the heavens and the earth. Why don't you listen? He's taking care of the heavens and the earth, and He ensured they're in harmony, and they're working well. Don't you see them? So if you want to work well, why don't you follow the same rules that govern the celestial bodies? It's Allah who laid out the rules to govern their motion. And the rule that you need to govern your motion is this mutual consultation. Is this intentionality to please Allah Azza wa Jal? It'll assure good outcomes, for sure. So Allah Azza wa Jal continues on, and then He tells the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, well, actually before that, verse 14 is an anchor verse, and then 15, inshallah. So in verse 15, he says, he describes a phenomenon of this splitting, of this disputation. He says, وَتَفَرَّقُوا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم وَلَوْلَا كَلِمَةٌ سَبَقَتْ مِنْ رَبِّكَ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُّسَمًّى لَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُم. Very beautiful. He says they have not, divided except after the knowledge from Allah came to them. He's now referred to the previous nations and to the kuffar. Now, what did the kuffar do when the message of Quran came to come to them? They said, "Nope, we're not doing this. We're not gonna play games. We're not gonna play this. That's it. We're gonna split, divide, abandon. Who cares? This makes no sense." They automatically started to split from something that prior messages invited them to. How different is this from the message of Ibrahim? Allah says every single time you go to the prior nations and to even the kuffar of Mecca, you're going to find always groups that want to do what? Rebel against the haqq of Allah and split and divide and claim that they know better. Now, within the religious faith itself, didn't the Prophet say you're going to split into some 70-some groups and sects? Most of which are not going to be well. You know what Muslims have done? Every single group that rises, they say, we are that group. The group. And everybody else is going where? According to that hadith, hellfire. And you know what the difference is? Fiqh, theology, etc., etc., etc. They're calling literally everybody kafir that doesn't subscribe to their specific rules. Jews have done it, Christians have done it. Every single group that has received revelation from God split into sects. Now differences are okay, but don't divide. Allah says this sectarianism is fire. Ironically, He says in this verse, they didn't decide to split except after the knowledge from Allah come to them. How does that make sense? That after you receive the wahy of Allah, you start to divide and dispute. Instead of what? Harmonizing. Does it make sense? So what does Allah say? So if they decided to split after having the Quran, and we're fighting with each other after we have the Quran, and everybody declares they're the winner and they're going to Jannah and everybody else is going to the hellfire, right? And we see this with Muslims throughout the world. And that's what's bringing us trouble. Allah says, then if clearly you're witnessing this even amongst religious people, and he's referring here to the religious people, by the way. The ones who receive the knowledge are dividing and quarreling, right? But he says it's because of one thing. Where is it? It's in the heart. Baghyan. He's going to tell you, I'll tell you why they're doing this. Every single time you see people fighting, quarreling, and angry, they're trampling in each other, he says it's because of something in the heart. They desire to trample on each other. They desire to oppress each other. They desire to be ahead of each other. They're vying and competing with each other. That's why they're behaving like that. The Muslim, the believer, is so soft and humble. They'll never trample on others like this. They'll understand the bigger priorities because they're connected to the source. Their hearts seek the harvest of Allah, not their own harvest. So it's all about desires and whims. Shahwa, right here. It's in the heart. Allah describes it. And He tells us the consequence. He says, وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. He says, when people start witnessing these quarrels and divisions and sectarianism and the fires, groups fighting with each other, just as we see it even within masajid, you know what he says? You know what's going to happen? Look at this. He says, the ones who will inherit the book from after them are going to be in manifest doubt. Don't we see this with youth? They're like, why are these uncles fighting like that? So what happens to them? They start doubting the faith itself. This is one of the consequences of this division is that you start misguiding others, including the younger generation and the generations that come after you. Wow. Allah revealed this 1400 years ago. Aren't we witnessing it? Division, not differences. Division corrupt people, brothers and sisters, inside out. And corrupt the next generations. Because when they witness this fire, they're repelled from the whole message. They start doubting everything. And people often say, like, aren't you guys like, aren't you like claiming God, faith, and why fighting? Why killing each other? Don't the people always say this? Now some of them say it with good intentions, but some of them say it with bad intentions because they hate religion altogether. They want to split, right? But some, honestly ask the questions like, why are people in religion like always fighting with each other? What an awful thing. What an awful thing. And it's actually defiant to Allah. Allah is all about harmony, unity. He's the one. And He interconnected everything. And Allah tells the Prophet ﷺ, here's the message. فَلِذَلِكَ فَادْعُوا وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا. He says, be strict. He's telling even the Prophet ﷺ, struggle, strive. This is not going to be attained easily. Right? Is it easy to cooperate? It's extremely hard. Is it easy to put somebody else's needs above your needs? It's not easy. It's very hard. Is it easy to subscribe to the rules of Allah? It's not easy. It is hard. And it's hard to remain sincere. When Allah though facilitates it, it becomes easy. And Allah says, make an effort to do this. It's not easy. Istaqim. Correct yourself. Be humble to repent to Allah when we make mistakes and trample on each other, etc. Then if you do so, then Allah Azza wa Jalla will deliver His barakah to all of us. And Allah Azza wa Jalla now describes in the next section what happens to the people in the hereafter when they have split from this core message of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And I'm going to wrap up with this. Allah describes in a beautiful set of verses, verse 36 to 44, a group of qualities, collection of qualities describing those who are affected by what? The wahy of Allah. Those who really see the bigger picture, Allah, they do what the angels are doing, tasbih of Allah. They're seeking the harvest of Allah, right? They're so sincere. They're affected by the Quran. They're affected by the message. How do they look like? What are their characteristics? Allah gives them to us. He says, verse 36, وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. He says, first message. For those who really desire the harvest of Allah, they believe in Allah and they do tawakkul on Allah. What's tawakkul? I depend on Allah. I don't depend on myself. Even if somebody, violated me, you know what? The affair is in whose hands? Allah. This is beautiful tawakkul. Tawakkul is, I've done my best. Listen, I'm fighting with Chavez and Just giving it to him. He says, you know what? I've done my best. I've given you my arguments. I've done this. I'm going to do what? Tawakkul on Allah. And when I hear tawakkul, I'm like, I'm going to do it to you. I'm going to do tawakkul on you now. Like, I'm going to give it to you. And he says, no. Tawakkul on Allah. I've done my best. You see how easy it is? So peaceful, so beautiful. Tawakkul on Allah, that I understand it's not me. I have no control. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Allah, don't make me depend on myself for a blink of an eye. Recognition, myself cannot even function without you. Allah's hand controls the heavens and the earth. Easy. Easy. But when we think we're in control, we start what? Wanting to oppress. Prove ourselves right. You know, people argue. See the worst behaviors. Because of the hard things that it's in control. Even when they're arguing for the truth. Remember, religious knowledge comes to people and they start quarreling because they think they're in control. They don't understand the message of Allah. Allah says, do tawakkul on me. Those who do tawakkul on Allah are very peaceful. Extremely peaceful. They get their point across. They're courageous. They stand up. They do tawakkul on Allah. Their hearts completely rely on Allah. First quality. Number 2, يَجْتَنِبُونَ كَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَاحِشِ. They abstain from the worst of the evils and the worst of the sins, the bigger ones. They really make sure they don't touch them. The bigger sins and the obscenities, and then when they're angry, Allah says they're going to get angry. Don't say to them, don't get angry. People do get angry. That's temper. It's normal. But when they're angry, what do they do next? They recognize it. They do istighfar. I made a mistake. I hurt you I shouldn't have said that, right? Oops, I got angry. But to say, Ya Allah, forgive me. Please forgive me. That is a sign of the belief. Not arrogant and egotistical. They say, no, I'm right. I'm going to smack you again, right? Because I'm right. Then that's quality number 2. استجابوا لربهم وأقاموا الصلاة وأمرهم شورى بينهم. Then very significant. He said, they answered Allah. Whenever Allah tells them to do something, they do it. They're not arguing with Allah. Look at the argumentation. And here they're not arguing with Allah. And then they do salah. Listen, they consider salah very important. They elevate it above everything. Aqamu, as-salah. They established it. It's the core of their life that ensures they're connected to who? The one. Notice salah is your instrument to keep you connected and not split and not deviant from the source. But now what is your tool to make sure that you're connected to people around you? So if the tool to connect you to the heavens is salah, what is the tool to keep you connected here when you differ? Shura, consultation. SubhanAllah. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُم. What a beautiful thing. Allah says, you're going to differ here. And when you differ, make sure it's divinely prescribed. Within your family, do shura. A council, do shura. With the stakeholders, do shura. Not everybody. You cannot do shura with everybody, by the way. I'm not going to consult with everybody. It's like you're not going to get anywhere. And then you make your decision. Allah says those who do this, they're going to attain goodness and mercy from Allah, barakah from Allah. But what else is going to happen to their hearts when, when I take the opinion of Shabis in a matter? How are you going to feel? How are you going to feel? As opposed to saying, you don't know anything. I decided to stay in your place, right? How do you feel? Feel good, right? Your hearts are softened. When somebody's opinion is elicited, so even sometimes we ignore the children, it's like, sit in your place. You have no opinion, right? Worst culture in the world. You know what I mean? They actually say, teach them shura. Especially, now not in every matter, but in matters that, where their opinions can have some, inshallah, impact, where it can teach them something. You gotta be wise in where to conduct that shura. That's left. Allah leaves it to us to decide where and what. Make sense? But ultimately, it's an enshrined rule of Allah to conduct shura. Because that's the only way for harmony, for unity, so you can produce better outcome and even better judgments. And you don't necessarily do the shura with a fool, right? You also have to understand who to do the shura with. But is it in your heart to do it? Or are you going to just shove it down somebody's throat? He says that will never deliver good outcomes. That's another quality. And then he says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَهُمُ الْبَغْيُ هُمْ يَنْتَصِرُونَ. We'll wrap up inshallah. He said, among the characteristics of these people who are affected by the wahy, the revelation of Allah, is that when they are violated, when they're wronged, or when they witness others being wronged, do they just sit on the side and say, well, it's just the decree of Allah, what am I going to do? No, they stand up for themselves. They defend themselves. They don't say, I'm not going to be just surrendering to this, to the whims and desires of somebody, but they use their wisdom. Or when they witness others being violated, they don't just let it happen, saying, well, Allah will defend them. What do? They rise, يَنْتَصِرُونَ. They rise to defend the truth, to defend the oppressed. Imagine, all of us choose not to defend anybody. Because we say, oh, it's okay, sabr. Right? What's going to happen? Corruption will prevail in the land. But Allah says, use your wisdom. What if you're in a position of power and somebody violated you, right? You have the capacity to forgive now. See, it's different. So Allah says, use your wisdom, but among the qualities, He put this rule to ensure that Muslims don't end up thinking it's like, it's not my business. Even when I'm violated, yeah, it's better to just let it go. Let it go. Everything, let it go, and then you're nobody. And others are trampled on, and their existence is shattered just because you think it's none of my business because Allah takes care of it. This is a beautiful rule. Stand up, have courage, but be wise in the exercise of what? That strength. How do you apply it? In what dose? Etc. But then he says, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. He said, never ever exceed the limits, even in retaliation. You have a right to retaliate. Somebody, let's say, okay, somebody mentioned this last time. Here's a reiteration of it. Somebody slapped you. What do? Right? No, I actually have a right to slap you. But I don't have a right to what? Shower you with something, right? It doesn't mean shower the person with kicks and hits and smacks because you smacked me. I'm going to make sure you're hurt. I'm going to give you 10, 20, right? Nope. 1 for 1. Okay. Somebody, let's say, I don't know, rape someone. Did they say, well, I'm going to go rape their sister? 1 for 1. Astaghfirullah. It's a maintenance crime. You don't return a crime by crime. You don't do that. So it depends on the situation. It's a beautiful rule. Beautiful rule. But you never exceed the limits. The measure has to be the same, but you cannot return a sin by sin. No way. But in certain situations, right, there's you exact a thing with the same measure though. And I gave the example of the slap. It depends really on the question, on the situation. But you cannot return a sin by a sin. However, retaliation is not. It has to be exercised with righteousness. It's the right of a person according to the rules of what? Righteousness and justice. Allah doesn't want us to become meek either. Make sense? But ultimately, if you have power and control, forgiveness is what? Better or worse? Much better. According to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah ends the surah by saying, verse 52, وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ. Wraps it up by bringing us back to the concept of wahy. And as such, we've delivered to you wahy from us, from our command. You would not have known any of this. He's telling us, like, would you have known what a book is? What revelation? We wouldn't have known anything. Would we know how to conduct ourselves? Nothing. What a beautiful inspiration from Allah. That He tells us how to behave, how to think, how to feel, how to stay harmonious, how to stay united, how to soften hearts, how to settle differences, enshrine rules from the heavens. And He's reminding us this. And He says, when you follow it, you're going to be inspired. Specific divine energy will be given to you from Allah Azza wa Jal to guide you and enlighten you to see and know, as long as your heart desires what? The harvest of what? Allah. That's really what it comes down to. And here, inshallah, I'll open the floor for comments, questions.
So regarding in the same way, one of this means al-Hur bil-Hur.
And what?
Al-Hur bil-Hur. Whatever the meaning context of this is in the same way.
Yeah. One for one. Everything is about one for one. It's like, like, the free is for the, it's like for the free. They're equivalent. It depends on the context. Like, go ahead.
So the thing about that though is many people kind of take it the wrong way. It kind of relates to the question of why does Allah punish people, right? Oftentimes we kind of take a Gandhian approach to mercy, like forgive, pacification. But sometimes there's greater wisdom in being strict and harsh than being non-merciful. In fact, if anything, being strict is the mercy and not being strict. The example I would use is, say you're a judge in a court case and say, I don't know, Tarif ran someone over with the car. I say, no, I know Tarif, he's a good brother, I let him off. Let's say the next day Tarif runs over another person. I say, okay, Tarif, maybe we'll just take away your license this time, I forgive you this time. And then the next day Tarif runs over another person. If I just keep forgiving you at that point, I'm not helping you, I'm enabling you and keep on doing the same crime. So then I'll say, you know what, Tarif, you need a timeout, you're going to the jail for a month, let's say, right? By punishing you, it's a mercy for you and for society because I'm preventing you from committing your evil further. Or, you know what I mean.
No, I'm not sure what you mean at this point.
Preventing your crime.
Make sure he doesn't become a judge, please.
Preventing your crime further.
No, again.
It prevents you from committing your crime further and you're not hurting anyone else. It's the same way why, Allah would hurt someone else. And again, it's not going beyond the bounds if you do it at a certain
It's beautifully put. Wisdom. You see the mercy, right? That's beautifully stated. Chavez, like, mercy. If this rule is always like stop, forgive, our children will be just lost. Criminals will be roaming the wilderness, right? It has to be justice. It's with justice and righteousness. The question should always be what delivers the best outcome for the well-being of the individual and the well-being of the group. Now, the question in the surah is who can come up with the best system for this? Who can generate the best rules? No one but Allah, because we have whims and desires. Make sense? It's subhanAllah, and that's why wahi is important. We have subjective even morality. But the bottom line, the principles of even mercy being embedded in discipline, in quote unquote punishment, because punishment is not really to inflict pain, as much as it is there to what? Prevent further darar, further harm. La darar, remember the rule, the hadith that I stated last time, la darar wa la dirar. No harm and no reciprocation of harm. Don't cause harm. What achieves the greater good? Allah gives us the principles and He says, in the specifics, I'll leave it to you to decide. That's where your test is. Make sense? See a bunch of hands. I'm gonna then I'll go this way.
So I'll just give you an example of the justice, and you only can resolve the issue. Somebody slaps you, you respond with one slap, perhaps, but it should be equivalent. It should not exceed. Going back to the life of Prophet Muhammad, when Al-Ghurayza, the Jewish, when they betrayed Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad ordered that all these people will be killed, or their wives, all their women will be taken, and children will be slain, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that equivalent to what they did? Or the Prophet Muhammad was ordained to do these things for which is probably, in my sense, it was a little more than what they did.
Yeah. So a really good example of where wisdom was used, where it's the weight of the harm and what Chavez said on a bigger scale, right? He spoke of this listen, there is nothing like, what do they call it when you have somebody, somebody's disloyal, they commit treason. It's nothing worse than treason, and nothing is worse than causing fitna, causing people to literally fighting them in their own, in their desire to to essentially follow Allah and His faith. And when the Prophet ﷺ did what he did, it was really ultimately, it's not the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never retaliates. And by the way, the evidence of him not retaliating is evident throughout his seerah, right? Because when it actually affected him personally, we know the story of, his own uncle got slaughtered by him, by Wahshi, and he forgave them completely. And when he came to Mecca, when he was triumphant and in power, what did he do? Idhabu, antum tulaqa, all of you are free. But when he was in the position that he was in, and there were schemes against him, and they've already endured all that they've endured in Mecca, 13 years of oppression, of injustice. It's actually the harm that was inflicted on them, the loss of life that was the hijrah. You remember what they've had to do? Killed, tortured by the Meccans. Check what else has happened. They were sent, they had to be forced out in migration to Al-Habasha. They were, poor thing, the families were scattered and shattered. 13 years of oppression. On top of this, you have the hypocrites, you have this, you have schemes of Arab tribes against them. So when the Prophet ﷺ had the opportunity to teach a lesson and to remind of the consequences, it was in that spirit of achieving that greater good. So when you speak of the one for one, it's not just this takes into account, apple for apple. It's much more complex because this is life. You have to weigh in. The Prophet was weighing political, social, economic, psychological, religious implications, all in the mind of that leader was divinely inspired. And it was ultimately the wisdom of Allah Himself. The Prophet Muhammad never acted on his own. He never acted on his own. And this is also a unique incident. If you notice, this hasn't really happened. It happened right there and there because of the context. We have to always, that's why when we do shura, like for us, we're not Prophet Muhammad divinely inspired by Allah. We have sometimes serious situations. The way that Chavez did it yesterday, it's not necessarily, even though it's the same situation, looks like the same situation, doesn't mean we follow what he has done. We say, wait a minute, today, the politics and the economics of today dictate that we think differently about a strategy to address this problem. So we gather and we consult and say, let's think of all the factors. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was weighing all these factors. Some of it is evident to us, and I would say most of it is not evident to us. That's why he's divinely inspired, and Allah has guided him to that decision that on its surface looks cruel. It wasn't. It was for the greater good of the community and even the oppressor himself. Even though, because sometimes they need to be taught lessons. And I swear to you, as you said, when you discipline, even I can give you something else, like cutting off hands. You say, wait a minute, you stole this, why cut hands? Right? Why cut hands? First of all, it has to be contextualized. Not everybody's hands get cut because they stole. And there's no rules, there's no sharia have to apply that anyway. But I'm just saying, look, because people think that's harsh. That's the rule of Allah. It is to deter what? The greater harm. And Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't legislate for the individual. Remember this. He legislates for the individual, but more important, for the community at large. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm not that way. I don't need that rule because I'm good. Well, Allah's not just legislating for you. He's legislating for everybody. So make sure you don't do that. Make sense? So it's the greater context that we're not aware of. And the greater benefit and the deterrence of harm that average human beings might not be able to see. We only see the surface. And Allah knows best. But it's a really good question. And it should just invite us to think of the bigger picture. Some of it is known to us. Most of it is unknown to us. It's only known to Allah.
But look at the context. It's kind of goes back to the eye and the eye thing. It wasn't just like, Banu Qurayza doesn't like the Prophet.
No, yeah, exactly.
Look what they were accused of. They were accused of trying to attack the women and children during the battle.
And it was treason.
And they were all in it together. I mean, it's not as if he killed the people who couldn't fight. He killed the fighting aged men.
Exactly.
And none of them said anything when they decided to attack. They all worked together.
Treason throughout time has always been dealt with swiftly.
In this country, it's execution.
Actually, there is no joke with treason because the harm from treason touches everybody. I mean, these Banu Qurayza, they're about to wreck the whole community. Like the whole community was about to be wiped out because of their treason. So the implications are very serious. So how do you now deter people from doing something similar in the future, but also to teach them a lesson. And actually, it is an eye for an eye. Eye for an eye because of the severity of that treason. So that's Allah for also coming back. So let's go back, inshallah, this way. Go ahead.
I want to talk about another type of aggression that most of us get exposed to every day. You know, a crime happened here and there, and you know, it's the verbal aggression. When somebody express hate, you know, talk bad about you, you know, all this non-physical aggressions, and then some of us make sure to talk bad about them again, and, you know, return the. So, but I think in most of the cases, I came to the conclusion that the best way to do it is to express your love, even if you've been told something negative, and then not to expect anything in return. So, does the rule of, you know, return the crime with similar punishment, how does it apply to this?
So again, it's another very good question.
Yeah.
We have to, this is where wisdom comes in. Allah is not saying for every single thing you have a right to go back and just kind of retaliate. No, it depends on the act itself, the wrong that was done. In the case of physical harm, repel it. Nobody is to touch you and harm you. Verbal, it has caused emotional harm. But you know what? In this case, we can seek the healing from Allah Himself, and to forgive is definitely better. And what are you going to say back? Well, one thing, for sure, somebody curses, you don't curse back, for sure. No sin for sin. However, yes, you have a right to say, listen, this is not correct, etc., etc., etc. You have no right to violate me or disrespect me. I have every right to say this. And a human being ultimately should do things that minimize the harm. If I think in this particular case, me being silent will allow this person to abuse me, then I have to draw the line. It depends on the situation. Somebody driving my car, gave me the finger. I'm sure you've received many. Haven't you? No, on the way to ICCP, I'll never forget, man. Somebody gave me the finger right here. Like, I was like, just like, ICCP, right? I'm like, oh, why did he give me give me the finger, and I saw him cursing. I was like, you know what I like to do sometimes? Just roll down and like, smile. Just because people are angry, just get a smile. What did you do? Nothing. In that case, you know what I'm saying? Like, no harm, really. Like, foolish. Because however, if somebody came and hit you, you're not gonna hit me, right? So my point is, verbal is different, and where did it happen, and how did it happen? Is this person dealing with you? Somebody at work, as opposed to somebody giving you the finger, somebody at work who's constantly violating you verbally, and everybody's witnessing this, and you're supposed to then just say every day, I'm gonna forgive him. Just sure, forgive him in your heart, but the line has to be drawn at some point so that further abuse doesn't happen. Make sense? So it really depends on the situation.
But it's some sort of comment. Let's say I make a living in a certain trade, and somebody, you know, say some comments, and he could hurt the reputation of your work, and then in return you could lose customers, and
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
So
Very good example.
it's just verbal. But so
Ultimately,
I mean, in
right.
the law of the land, you know, you could go after them
Yeah.
for
Like, let's say defamation. It's not cool.
Yeah.
What defamation? Your reputation is at stake. Now, when you've exhausted your means through righteousness, then you leave it to Allah. That makes sense? Like, okay, suddenly people are talking nasty about it. What are you gonna do? You try to. It depends. Allah says, "Yatawakkalun." They have to ultimately resign to Allah, surrender to Allah. Because when we don't surrender, we think we're in control of everything. We start to lose control of ourselves. That surrender to Allah is so important. But again, it depends on the situation. And one has the right to exercise even legal recourse to prevent that greater harm to them. But are they doing it righteously? justly without violation of the other as well. Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's Allah is demanding taqwa, God consciousness, and checking one's intentions. Let's inshallah go here and then I'll go back. Inshallah, go on, and then
I just wanted to go back to the theme of the surah, the Shura. The question is that if you look at the basic, very basic unit of this earth, which is an atom, and atom has a major three component, and they are different from each other, but they function in harmony. They function, as an example. And if you try to break that function, what will happen? The people exploited that atomic bomb, neutron bomb, and hydrogen bomb. You can see that how that if you try to disrupt those things. Now coming back to the ikhtilaf, the difference, we see that ikhtilaf is in a bad sense. But if everybody has the same opinion in here, it would be very boring, right? So the ikhtilaf is a learning that people learn from each other, for example.
Beautiful.
So the question is that we need to learn from each other, not we need to fight with each other. Ikhtilaf leads to the criticism. People start criticizing each other. I'm better than you. Your idea is not good. My idea is better. Then ikhtilaf, then that criticism lead to two paths. Either I hate you, I don't like you, I'm going to create my own country, okay? Or criticism leads you to learn from each other. I think that's the path which Quran is telling you. So the people usually sometimes say, let's agree to disagree. That's the basic principle here.
And Jazakallah khair, this is really very, very essential. However, we can also misapply this rule completely.
Right.
We're going to say, well, I'm just giving an example regarding family. Family have like 10 children, parents, and they're not that deciding vacation where I can take opinions. But I'm deciding, saving for kids' tuition. Now my kids want to buy toys. So I'm going to take their opinion on it. Like, makes sense? Like, you don't take opinions of people on no, it depends on the context that you're in. A political system, can you imagine if the government is going to take the opinion of every citizen on the conduct of foreign affairs? They're not going to do business. That's why we have representation. And also, like, is everybody have mental capacity, experience to be consulted? So people also need to respect when they're not consulted and trust the process. Trust those in leadership to make the decisions. Make sense? So it's not like, oh, it's a shura. How come my opinion wasn't taken? Well, why do you want to have your opinion being taken? Are you a stakeholder? Where are you in the hierarchy? So there has to be also respect for the system, but Allah says, check your intentions, ensure that the system ultimately subscribes to the rules of Allah. But there's something beautiful in what you said. We actually absorb wisdom when we open it up, right? As long as people are also sharing that with a desire for the benefit and not to just say, I am right and you're wrong. That's where trouble comes in. And sometimes you also have to make a decision that troublemakers are left out. Make sense? That's part of also assuring the well-being of everybody. All depends on the situation.
That's the way the good ideas evolve.
What is it?
That's the way the good ideas evolve, by criticizing, by looking at ideas. What is best?
Implementation is not easy. It depends, like, subhanAllah, like strict adherence to all of this. But Allah help all of us, inshallah. Lala? And I'll come back to you, inshallah.
I have really fascinating items about the angel. It's really fascinating. When you mention about the angel, Allah creates angel from us actually. We worship Allah in the same time. We pray for us. All the time, like I say now, we think about that because I feel that we are doing the same. When Rasulullah subhanahu wa ta'ala went to the Islam church, he was curious about that because when he saw the angel, he asked angels to you and what they are doing. So, like you say, they would say subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of that. So, for me, yeah, we are doing exactly like them. And we are saying,
So true.
there are some angel category doing that Allah, there are some angels doing, I think they are doing that. And
Yeah.
inshallah, my first is then we need to take a rest on that. When we finish the salah, take the extra thing and go up as well, we cannot do the same thing, they take me to the heaven. And when people, I see people watching, when the salah went to the right, then this is the opportunity for us. And God are there for us to make the salah for us. Why don't you take 10 seconds to make it?
Yes.
That's one of the issues.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Hala. I'm going to go back actually to this because it's a nice wrap-up message. So I'm going to defer commentary on that. Jazakallah khair, because it's really beautiful conclusion to everything that we spoke about. So I'm going to come back to it, inshallah.
So, in question to the brother's, point, this is one of the biggest misconceptions about Prophet Muhammad is that media tells you he ordered the killing of Manupur. So I did some reading on it some time back. I read different, books. One of the source is a lady called Armstrong. She wrote a lot of books on Prophet Muhammad's life history. The fact was, he actually did a Shura. He didn't make a decision. Prophet Muhammad didn't make a Shura.
Of course.
And he made a Shura. One of the Sahaba, he was a Jew, he converted, and he was a tribal leader. So the Manupur just said, we will prefer him to make the decision because he was from our tribe. And he made the decision to execute these people because it was actually the law of the Jewish law at that time for treason. If it was the Jew laws at that time, if anyone did that treason, then you have to slaughter or So he made the decision and Prophet Muhammad thanked him. But Prophet Muhammad never made the decision to kill the Jews in that way. So it was Surah. It was done by one of the Sahabas who was a former tribal leader of the Jew community. It was according to the Jewish law at that time. And give the name,
absolutely.
everything.
And Jazakallah khair. Put in further context, but even if that law did not, if it contravened any of the principles of Allah, clearly would have been rejected. But even to demonstrate, as you said, subhanAllah beautifully, the act itself, even in other traditions and systems, warranted that consequence, warranted that level of punishment, given its severity. Because again, treason and killing of people is not a joke.
And a lot of us we don't know that, and this is one of the biggest propaganda in the internet. Oh, your prophet is so much killed.
Yes.
It's so many innocent people. Look at that. So I was
And it's beautiful to cite again, Jazakallah khair for pointing that out. It's from even within your law. It's a very significant detail. Jazakallah khair.
Had it been directed to the Prophet, he could have been, he's a merciful. He could have been,
Right. This is what I would, but this is also what I would say, that Allah knows best, because Allah made it go through that route to also protect the Prophet ﷺ, but also ultimately, not everything, when we, you kind of hit on this, the whole concept of mercy. What is mercy here? Yani, with Prophet Muhammad, now Prophet Muhammad in Mecca telling everybody go is not like in this case when they're under threat and they're about to be annihilated, saying, you know what, I forgive all of you. Maybe in that particular case, that's why Allah permitted this to happen. Ultimately, it is what Allah wanted. That's what I was trying to say. It's ultimately the inspiration of Allah. How it happened, Prophet Muhammad did the Shura, invited others, but it ultimately serves Allah's purpose and justice and mercy. Mercy in that case was this.
But again, we see that in time in the Battle of Badr,
Right.
when they captured the enemies. Prophet Islam and Abu Bakr said, let them go.
Exactly.
But Umar said, no, we should execute them.
Difference,
Allah
exactly.
later on supported Umar. Sometimes it's a hard decision, but they know they will come back and do the same.
And also this is very significant. I'm glad you hit also this other detail, is that you've seen also here differences. Everybody weighed the situation differently. Abu Bakr weighed it differently than Umar. Prophet Muhammad did the consultation. But ultimately they made a decision, divinely inspired by Allah Azza wa Jal, based on what he has heard, and he has always done this, by the way. Rasulullah always consulted, and then made the decision after ultimately consulting with Allah Azza wa Jal himself. But you've seen how people read the situation differently. That's why you go back to when you consult with the right individuals, you never know what you'll learn and what makes more sense. And then through that process, Allah says you'll arrive at sound judgment. Sound judgment cannot be arrived at, especially in critical matters, by somebody just thinking on their own. It's not possible. Jazakallah khair again, because you addressed another issue, which is, as he said, Brother Asim, it's actually a big issue on the internet. And people attack Islam on this particular point. That's why I'm glad he put even additional.
Yes. My question is, all these things we know that if harm comes to you, then you can get independence, we are working, it's better for you. But what happens harm comes to the commission? Like all the suffering happening to our brothers and sisters in Burma, Palestine, Syria, in China. How do you retaliate? How do you respond?
That's not about retaliation. Yeah, exactly. So the question is not so much retaliation as much as restoration of rights. Restoration of rights. First of all, it depends on our effect, ability. Prophet Muhammad put it beautifully. Whenever you're able to correct something, correct it. Action, words, even if it's in your heart, depending on your ability. And depending on what subscribes to justice and to the rules of the land, so to speak. In my case, if my brother Chavez is got, somebody hit him right now, I can't say it's none of my business. And it actually defies Islamic faith. I gotta stand up and say, prevent the harm right now. I'm able to actually physically step in and prevent the harm. How often do we see people getting hurt? I say it's none of my business. Now you gotta assess the situation, but if somebody has a gun, I mean, yeah, that's it. Now people have different levels of courage. But I'm just saying that we have the ability right now to prevent that physical harm by action, physical action. Sometimes it's word. Somebody's getting violated right here with an insult. Do we just say, who cares? By the way, it happens a lot. People get insulted in front of us, and no one stands up for them. We gotta stand up for them, prevent that person, the oppressor, from further abuse. Situation is far from you, and you don't have, you have power to lobby and legislate. So in the case of somebody overseas, Allah first of all says, if you care for them, you'll make dua for them. Minimum. Everybody can do this. To care for them, to learn about them. What else can you do within your land? If I am now sitting in I don't name countries, because I don't want people jump on me. Some countries prevent you from even saying a word. You're in Saudi Arabia, I don't know. What am I going to say for Burma and Palestine? You can't. You really cannot. Now, you cannot. Do you know that? You cannot. You'll be arrested. But in this country, I can. Well, it depends on where also, right? But I can also lobby. I can do something. There are efforts and there's a course of action that you can take within the rules of the land, within the laws that you have available to you, to exercise your best. What Allah demands is that we do our best for that situation. You cannot take care of also all situations because you have limited capacity. But also, are we cooperating with others? So this is where we need to think strategically about what maximizes the benefits, or what can help your brother and your sister. Are we cooperating with others, or are we working by ourselves? Oftentimes, and people sometimes do the exertion emotionally, and then they kind of go home and do nothing. People go protest. I mean, protest is great. It's actually, this country is all about protesting. But then you go shout on the street, which is, by the way, not to say it's not good. It can be very good to go protest peacefully, right? Peaceful protest. However, is it being coupled, let's say, by actions, legislative actions, educational, etc., where the hard work is? Or is it just a matter of just going outside yelling and then going home and sleeping? See my point? So that's what Allah is asking us. Have we done our best with what we have? With the resources that we have, and also within the bound of the rules that we have available to us, given our situation. Maybe somebody else, you saying a word will inflict harm on you, so don't say it. See my point? Allah knows best. But clearly, it's not good to just say, it's none of my business. Allah says, you can't do this. Then justice is lost completely. Completely, when people are silent. All that the forces of evil need is for everybody who's truthful to say nothing. Then we're in trouble. So let's wrap up, inshallah. Did I see a hand?
I just wanted to say that, brother pointed out those things. the historian or whatever the Western people, some people are writing about those things, that how bad was the Islam at the time. Its sword was used to stop other people to think. They actually appointed their own judge. The Prophet let them pick the judge. They wanted to pick a judge. That was the ex-clan man of the Jewish community. He was converted to Islam. So they picked their own judge, and the decision was made by the judge. And it was, Prophet says, this is the decision, you pick the judge. We need to follow the decision. You cannot change the judge now.
Yeah.
You fought it to appoint this judge, your ex-clan man. So now the decision is here. So it will be fulfilled.
Barakallah feek again. Good for everybody to know the details.
They need to read carefully what happened.
Absolutely. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, alhamdulillah, next time we'll do Surah Al-Zukhruf, inshallah, next Sunday. Request, inshallah, really saddened to know that Brother Rahman's aunt, Sayyidah Kamal, passed away yesterday in Toronto. Sorry, I think the lie. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He grants her His mercy, that He admits her into Jannat al-Firdaus, that He widens her grave, that He passes her on into the arms of the beautiful, joyous, merciful angels, that He makes them her companion in her grave and in the next world. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He joins with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that He grants her His nur and His maghfirah, His pardon, His forgiveness, that He cleanses her completely, that He grants her family patience and strength during their time of loss, that He joins them together in Jannat al-Firdaus, that He does the same for everyone who has lost anyone in our community, that Allah grants them their His mercy, His forgiveness, that He joins us with them in Jannat al-Firdaus. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Final announcement, it's just caution. Anybody, there's we call it, some fraudulent kind of scam going around. It can really get you. So you can be getting what's called phishing messages. So calls claiming to be coming from Apple, especially for iPhone users. I'm sure there's a lot of it, right? And it will show up on your phone. I've done this in my past, in my other life, technology. So typically you get a phone call, it's not identified. So you say, pick it up, say, hey, they'll say on the phone, your account has been breached. So they'll say, in this case, they'll say your iCloud account has been breached. They'll claim to be from Apple. This is normal. If you see a random number, you're not supposed to try to believe this, right? But here's why this is believable. They're gonna tell you, your account has been breached, they attacked you from New Mexico, from this. Have you given your password to anyone? You'll say, no, I didn't. Say, okay, go to your computer right now and do these things, give us your credentials. And people do, so that they solve the problem for you. Here's why it's believable. When they call you, guess how it shows up on your phone? With the word Apple. They actually somehow insert Apple's information into your phone book. So if you think, oh, it's Apple, here it is, it says Apple, and it's their address and even their phone number, but it's spoofed. It's not the real number. They're using the real number, but with a hidden number. So on your phone, it shows up to be so real. It happened to me on Friday, 2 calls from them, and I'm like, oh, it's Apple. But I've done this before. So I called the guy, I was like, so what's going on? It's like, yeah, I actually blew the breach. Where are you right now? I'm like, I'm driving. He's like, yeah, get on your computer soon. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I actually like to enjoy conversations with them. Actually, I'm calling this for fun. Don't ever give your passwords to any person. Don't ever on the phone or anywhere. Don't believe it. It can come to you with email. Apple will never actually do this, or any company. Just be careful of getting your password, bank accounts, anyone. Don't do it. Don't fall. Millions of people are falling for this, by the way. So I just wanted to caution you. I still have the record of Apple on my phone just to show you. Don't believe me. No. Just because this is the most recent. I'm just sharing this because it's the most recent scam that is gonna. Here it says, you see, Apple Inc. stored in my contacts. I never did this. Oh, this is a sophisticated scam. So you say, they're calling you from Apple. It's legitimate right here.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
I mean, in terms of websites, if they ever send you a website, just make sure you always check the top of the URL. If there's not an icon of a lock on the top, it means it's not encrypted. It's a phishing scam.
Absolutely.
The lock at the top means it's an encrypted website.
So never click on links coming to your emails. Go type it yourself. It's a lesson. Don't click links from emails to go to your bank. Go to the web browser yourself, type bankofamerica.com. Make sense? Just acknowledge the tip of the day. Yalla, assalamu alaikum.